Hi, everyone, and welcome to our Monday show. Thank you very much for being here. We are streaming this one across the pretty much everywhere, actually. Yeah, we are on YouTube in a moment of madness. We're on Facebook, we're on the Getters, the Twitters, the Rumbles. We are also live on Podbean. So for those of you who just want to listen, you can pick it up there as well. We're going out live on Podbean, and it's also obviously available for playback then. So yeah, so hopefully as many platforms as possible. And it's a great show we have tonight. I'm looking forward to this one because it's lovely when you get something that's so demented, so deranged that I have to call in extra help. And the cavalry is just sitting out of camera at the moment. Before we bring our special guest, returning guest onto the show, just a reminder, as I said last week, that to put in your diary, January 30th, London, and that's when our live event will be, and all the details will be coming out to you in the next couple of days. But it's all done, dusted. Two great guests, actually three great guests, and you'll enjoy it. So if you're going to be in London town, make sure that you come along and see us. Right. Okay, let's start at the top in this one because there's so much to get into. I thought what I'll do, first of all, we'll bring our guest in. That's the first thing. We'll bring him in. I don't want to abandon him here. So look, I'm really delighted to bring Geoff from Geoff Buys Cars back onto the show. Hi, Geoff.
Good evening once again. How are we doing?
We're doing fine. We're doing all the better for seeing you, my friend. It's good to see you. I think you're one of the veterans, Geoff, of this show. You're one of the people that have survived a couple of these and still come back. So I'm delighted to see you, and of course, very apt to see you also because obviously, you know, the area of cars and car brands and all the stuff associated with it it's always there. It doesn't really go away. It floats around, and every now and again there's these big breakthrough stories, Geoff. And the one that I wanted particularly to start talking to you about is something that kind of broke all the barriers of uber wokeness. So what we'll do is, if we're ready to go, Jed, we're going to play the ad and then we're going to break it down and matters surrounding it. Yeah, exactly. Look away unless you have a strong disposition. Right. Get the ad going, Jed. Right. It doesn't get better. The more often I've seen that, the worse it gets. Okay, well, Geoff, straight away, over to you. Reaction.
All right, let's break this down then. I'm going to talk a little bit about the timeline as to the way I see it. Okay, so we are at, where were we last? It was either last Tuesday or Wednesday. We were all off school. We were having a snow day. We were basically snowed in. We're having a lovely day with the family, and a friend of mine texts me and says, "Have you seen the new Jaguar advert?"
Yeah.
And he said, "I think there might be a video in it." So obviously I looked at it and thought, well, I'm taking a day off with the family. I don't really want to make a video. And then I opened the link and I watched the video and I went, are you kidding me? This is crazy. So then I sort of parked it for a while and I thought, I'll make a video about that tomorrow. And then I thought, no, well, I'll just quickly check what's going on Twitter, because that's always a good place to go and look, isn't it? To get the real feel for things on the ground.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I read through some of the comments on Jaguar's post, and I was dying. I was killing myself laughing on the sofa. And it was, I don't know, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And I said to my wife, I'm sorry, darling, but I'm going to have to go and make a video about this. So my video was just reading the reaction on Twitter and looking at people's replies to Jaguar. So if we go from the top then. So Jaguar posts this out. I think it just had the caption, "Copy nothing."
That's right.
And then from as far as I could tell, in the early hours as well, Jaguar's PR team was still replying to people on Twitter. So people were asking questions and they were getting engagement from Jag's PR team. But very early on, I realized that tweet was getting really strange engagement. So the ratio of the number of people that had watched it versus the number of people that had clicked like was way off, like straight from the outset. So I knocked my video out. I think I was the first person on YouTube to make a video about it, which was pretty cool. So I have to thank my friend Ian for sending me the link for that one. But then, I mean, everything just fell apart after that, didn't it? So on the first day, people started to share it, but in the time that's gone since, so in the week that's passed, everybody on YouTube has been making videos and reacting to this. Then you've got Jaguar themselves have now come out today, I think it was today or yesterday, basically saying that everybody that doesn't like their new advert is a bigot. So the whole thing's just hilarious, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, I spent my life in the world of marketing, and I understand how businesses and corporations and whatnot approach their brand, and the brand is so precious always, and that the last thing you want to do is destroy your own brand. I mean, your competitors might want to destroy your brand, but no sane person would want to destroy their own brand. But maybe, Geoff, and I don't know if you've seen this, I can maybe offer you a visual clue as to maybe just why this. Now, we've got a short clip, 30 seconds, of the marketing. Have you seen this when the marketing director? Yeah, listen, folks, watch this guy. If we can bring him up, Geoff, and then we'll talk about this, because this is, here we go. This is the guy who's head of marketing for Jaguar. If you get his name, doesn't matter. Play.
Thank you. I cannot believe I'm up here. Right. Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Attitude. It is a true honor to stand here surrounded by such extraordinary individuals, trailblazers in the fight for LGBTQ+ rights, creativity, and self-expression. We are here to celebrate you, the ones who, despite everything, keep that vital flame alive, the flame that refuses to be extinguished, no matter how hard the world might try. We live in a time where the fight for equality.
Probably enough. I'm fighting with myself here. Right. That's enough. So this is the guy that's in charge of Jaguar's marketing. He sounds a top guy.
I can recommend it. I think everybody needs to go and watch this video, because again, there's multiple sides to this one. So leave him in that video for a moment, and like with your marketing hat on, and I also have, you know, my background is marketing, and they must have had that moment early when they launched that, where they were looking at the numbers and going, well, this is going really well. You know, people are really talking about the brand online. I'd love to have been in the room the moment the penny dropped and they realized that not all publicity is good publicity. Because they, you know, they set out to disrupt with this, but I don't think I think they will pretend that they knew this was going to happen. They will protect the response that they wanted, but I really, really don't think it is. The other side of that is everybody saying that they did this deliberately and that this is Jaguar, you know, squashing everything that's gone before and having a new launch, and they're sort of trolling us by getting our attention. And I love that idea, and I love the thought that they were then going to launch some thumping, you know, car drivers. But when you understand the background of the guy that is in charge of all of this, and when you watch that speech at...
Whoa. Geoff is coming and going like Jaguar's commercial prospects. Let's see if we can bring it back in. Hi, Geoff. You're back. You're back. You went there temporarily.
And I was on a roll as well. I must be struggling with this internet.
I think carry on. Ignore. Yeah.
All right.
So you're saying, yeah, that you see, Geoff, the thing that, you know, going back to that meeting, that mythical meeting that happened around their board table, right? I mean, so I've been in those meetings. I've heard them come out and say, one of the Jaguar spokespeople said that they understood this was radical, blah, 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 blah. And yes, they were expecting to lose about 85% of their customer base, their traditional customer base. I mean, at that point, in any board meeting I've ever been in, you'd be sacked. You'd be gone. The marketing people would be quietly asked to remove themselves and have a very big think, because it would never go live. You do 85%, Geoff. And they've actually doubled down on that.
Yeah, you're spot on. And the doubling down. And again, this is why for me, like, it's a much bigger and it's a much more important subject than just saying, oh, look, they've launched an advert with some gay Teletubbies on it. It's more than that. This is, for me, it is about the deliberate destruction of the brand. Yeah. And then they've doubled down on that destruction of the brand. They've doubled down on getting rid of 85% of their customers without launching a car. But let's not forget as well that they're previewing this car on December the 4th. It's not going to be available until 2026. So they've reduced their Jaguar dealerships by 80%. And in 2026, you will be able to buy a brand new Jaguar that will be electric only for £130,000 plus. But that car by that point will be 2 years old. So I just can't see, even if they had the best marketing in the world, even if they hadn't just launched a really weird video with gay Teletubbies in it that has basically alienated everybody, it's universally being despised. Even if you take that out of the equation, they're still launching a 2-year-old car. The market is swiftly turning against pure EV. So you've got manufacturers now who are backtracking because these EVs aren't selling, and yet Jaguar just doubled down on that.
Yeah, well, that's what amazes me. Yeah, because you're dead right, Geoff. That's the real, in many ways, that is the real background. Other car manufacturers are struggling with the whole EV targets and numbers and all the rest of it, and yet Jaguar have gone, we're all in. We're all in EV from. I didn't realize so is the new date for their new vehicle 2026 then? Is that what they've, is this the one that they've put the sort of the teaser ad from it? It looks a bit like Tesla-esque from the, well, we've got a picture of it to show from the back. There's a tweet they put out with an image of their car on it. You did have it there, Jed, a minute or two ago.
The turquoise car with the sort of, you can see the angles of what I think is going to be the back end of it. So they're teasing us. We're not going to see this car until I think it's December the 4th, and they're launching it at an art show.
Mm-hmm. There we go.
That's the one. Now, the funny thing is as well, Jaguar have launched this under the tagline of copy nothing, but launching a revolutionary car at an art show was what Range Rover did in 1971. So when the Range Rover launched as a car, they launched it at an art show. So Jaguar are already copying people in the way that they're doing things. So what's the copy nothing all about? They've copied the entire LGBTQIA DEI agenda with their advert, and now they're copying what Range Rover did with the launch of the car. So we'll see.
I'm not sure what this is. I'm not sure what this is saying, but it must have. I can't see from here from my eyesight. Can't see. Is this a new logo? Is this a new logo?
Yeah, and that's part of the new car. So, and it looks like it pulls out. So maybe that's a door handle, unless they've gone. Maybe that's a semaphore. Maybe it's a semaphore indicator. Maybe they're going to give us a car that's got no lights on it at all, and it's got semaphores. So we'll see. But I mean, they're holding their cards close to their chest. But I just feel like there's more to this story than a couple of people dancing around for an advert.
Because for something like this to have happened, I mean, everyone at the top has to be on board. Did you see a tweet that was put out earlier today? I think we've got it from, again, one of the higher echelons within Jag, having a go at Nigel Farage. Did you see that?
No, I've not seen that.
Yeah, we'll see if we can bring this one up for you. So this was, again, you talk about doubling down. They keep doubling down on this hostility to their customer base. I wonder, can you find it there, Jed? Okay, whilst Jed's trying to find it, it just struck me as why would you have a go? Why would anyone have a go at their customer base? Like, if you have a customer base, I have a customer base. The last thing I'd want to do, I'll wake up one day, Geoff, and think, do you know something? I'm sick of them all. I must get shot of them. And I'm running a large corporation. How the hell does that happen? In fact, actually, that's the question. How does that happen?
I think, again, like when you try to rationalize it, when you try to explain the processes and how it works, the only thing you can conclude is that it is all 100% deliberate. And then you go, well, why would they deliberately destroy a brand that has so much heritage? And that's when you start to get into the sort of conspiracy theory area.
Okay. Yeah.
And you say, well, what if this is all part, the whole, like, you'll own nothing and be happy, nobody will have an identity, you won't know what sex you are, everybody will, And then you go, well, okay, what are the icons of Britain? If you think of a British car, what do you think of? What do you think? Oh, you go Jaguar. Well, no, they've completely destroyed all of that heritage, and you think, well, is this part of like the whole New World Order to destroy everything that was beautiful and that we valued that's gone before and replace it with some form of modern rubbish? I don't know. It's bizarre and it's deep, and I'm sort of excited to watch what happens next and see how it unfolds. But the backlash on the internet, I can't remember anything that has created a buzz online like this has. It's huge.
Well, it is. And then another thing, I mean, you always can tell when something's really created an impact when people start producing AI fakes of it. So I think we mentioned this before we came in here. I think we can show our viewers and listeners, our viewers anyway. We can show you a parody ad, which watch this one. This is quite good. Happy ending to this one. Go. Yeah, there's another one where a Jaguar attacks him. Actually, I've seen that one as well. But people are taking the piss out of it. Actually, but Geoff, I think like Jaguar, like you're really into cars. Jaguar is an iconic British brand. I've driven a Jaguar, so I wouldn't go near this company now. They're going to succeed in their objective. I reckon the traditional Jag base is going to run a mile from whatever they're planning to do. And plus, I would never drive an EV, so I'm definitely not going to have a Jaguar. I'm glad I got one when it did, but now it's like, yeah, she said it might be into this destroy everything as world.
Yeah, I think so, because if you break down the advert and say, well, who is this appealing to?
Yeah,
it's such a small percentile of society that actually appreciates all of this woke LGBTQ imagery. And in actual fact, if you look at the kind of people that are into all that sort of stuff, they're not likely to be into cars. They're absolutely not likely to throw orange paint around, a BP forecourt. They're not car buyers. They're the sort of people that if they need a car, they'll get an Uber and then they'll moan about the pollution. So how can they decide that this is going to be our audience now? We're going to go for the people that appreciate all of this woke stuff. There's no customers there. There's an audience for it, sure, but there's no customers. So
yeah, great. Can I just say, one of our viewers here said, a guy Ibersteller says, I don't know if you've seen this one. The new Ford Capri is more like the Ford Crappie. Have you seen the new Ford? Listen, I'm old enough to remember the Ford Capri when it first came out, and it was a sexy car. It really was, from about 70 to 76, something like that. And I was reading a car magazine last night, and I was looking at the new one, and I was just going, "Oh God, what do you think of the new Ford Capri?"
Again, I'm really glad that person's brought that up, because I think it's in the same vein. I think it's been done to deliberately annoy people, because all the people that remember the Ford Capri, they're still around and they're still buying cars. And Ford goes, "Here you go. Do you remember the Capri? Take this," and it's a 5-door SUV. Again, it just feels like they're deliberately trolling us with car design. So Ford have destroyed the Capri brand. They've almost done the same with the Mustang, because they've got the Mustang Mach-E, which is another 5-door SUV. And then as well, I picked up a car magazine when I was at a train station the other day, and it included the latest photos of the new BMW 3 Series. But the new shape BMW 3 Series that's coming out next is pretty much indistinguishable as a BMW. You'd look at it and you think, well, what is that? Is it a Hyundai? Is it a Kia? Is it one of these Chinese companies? So all of these brands that we love and all the styling cues that we appreciate, that we know from over the years, they're all getting deleted.
Yeah, that's the point. That's exactly the point. I looked at that for Ford Capri and thought, it's just no way anyone would go near that. It's not recognizable as a Ford Capri. And I look at this, well, whatever Jaguar is doing, the fact that they hate, there's the Jaguar attacking them. That's good. I like that bit. Thank God for AI, Geoff. Okay, it might destroy the world, but it creates amusing ads. But, you know, they are absolutely atomizing the brand heritage of much loved cars. But maybe it's the market. Like, you know, I'm not sure who would be the market for Jaguars, a Jag at this point in time.
Well, it's hard to talk about Jaguar without talking about the fact that they have really struggled in years. Although they've made good cars and cars that are very attractive. You know, when they launched the XE, for example, they wanted to steal a large segment of BMW 3 Series buyers. It was a great car, very nice looking, but they've never been able to get the sales numbers. And of course, you know, the company as a whole, JLR, they've never been able to get a good enough handle on quality. So I don't know, and I think this is part of the problem. You know, they have been failing, and there's, you know, automotive people that are saying they need to do, but I don't think there's something different that they need to do. Is this weird Teletubby advert? You know, if their advert had actually been that AI generated one that you showed a minute ago, saying, look, the whole world is going woke, here's a Jaguar attacking everybody, we're going to launch an amazing car and kick back against everything that's going on, that would have worked. But what they're doing at the minute just doesn't.
Meanwhile, the Jag boss says criticism of his ad is vile hatred and intolerance. How long will he survive, do you think? I mean how do you think?
It's saying network connection lost. I think I'm still here.
You came. Yeah. So I mean, the Jag. I mean, I've never encountered a situation where a brand goes so hard against its own base, against customer or competitors. Yeah, but I just think that, you know, like traditionally, Geoff, all the people I've known who've driven Jags, I guess there is a kind of there's a particular type of person it appeals to. I don't know what this is, but
this one's excellent as well. So this is his parody. So she's the Jaguar marketing executive, and they're interviewing her, and it's brilliant. And while you watch that, I'm just going to shout to my kids because I can hear that they've left the freezer open.
Well, you sort the kids out, and we'll play this if we can get it up. Yeah, I think we need Starlink here because this is buffering really slowly.
You said that you all hate our rebrand, but I'm here to reassure you, we have a vision here. We hear you. It looks like a vape brand that only children buy. You said that replacing the Jaguar head with a monogram was like murdering a British icon. We might as well have shot Paddington Bear.
Cut! You're supposed to be reassuring them. Just get to the point. Tell them why this is fine.
I get it. That font looks like it belongs on a pink lemonade flavored condom.
Cut!
And I feel you, commenter who said sales are down 80% from
even the internet can't take that one there, right? Move on. It's too slow. But I hadn't seen that one before. Jaguar sales have been in decline, though, haven't they? From about 2018 or so, I think they've been on quite a. In fact, I mean, how come Land Rover Jaguar ended up being acquired by Tata anyway? How did that happen?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure on the details as to how that worked. I mean, I struggle with JLR generally because all I see from my side of things is substandard products, mostly on the Jaguar, on the Range Rover side of things. You know, the I-Pace, from what I can tell, has been an absolute warranted disaster. You know, they've had so many software problems, but particularly with Jaguar, they've got such a strong brand heritage.
Yeah,
you know, they're so well liked, and the cars are attractive. So that, like I said, the little XE is a great looking car, you know, if you want a mid-sized saloon. And then the XF, which is the larger one, sort of a BMW 5 Series size, that nice and even better looking as an estate car. and yet they just haven't seemed to make the headway in the market.
Yeah.
Good. So I don't know what, is it their sales process? Is it their marketing? Is it their dealer support? Something hasn't been working for Jaguar. So I can appreciate that they need to change something, but I certainly don't think it's this.
But you mentioned Land Rover, and like Land Rover, again, part of the same group. I mean, their reputation, Geoff, for problems, things going wrong, it's horrible, horrible. I mean, I see here where I live in Northern Ireland, they're very popular. The world and his wife seems to drive them because I presume they get them at mega discounts. But I mean, I at one moment, one of my sort of moments of madness, I thought I might buy one of them, and I was advised, don't do it, David, step away. And actually, when I went and sat in one, I didn't particularly care for it anyway. So it's like that whole group under Tata, as you say, Jaguar, Land Rover. It's like it's a problematical brand to have, I suppose, because it's under Tata. Maybe that hides the financial underperformance of it.
But then again, financially, you look at the numbers for Land Rover and Range Rover, and they're absolutely storming. So, and I think the only way they do it right is when you buy a Land Rover or a Range Rover. Land Rover or Range Rover actually sell 4 cars. I've worked this out. Okay, so
right.
you go in and you buy your Range Rover from the showroom, brand new, right? 6 figures, £160,000, however much they are. 2 weeks later, it breaks. And then then it'll break again and again. And when you're eventually sick of this car breaking, what happens is you take it back to the dealer, and the dealer says, I'll tell you what we can do. We can get you out of this car. We'll part exchange it against the new one, and we'll give you a different one, right? So you buy that one. So they've sold 2 cars to you. What they do then is your car that was broken initially, it just goes back on the forecourt without having any work done, and some mug comes along and buys it, and then they inherit all of your problems. So they've sold 3 cars, and then when you get your brand new Range Rover home, a week later it gets stolen, and then the insurers pay you out.
Yeah, that's right, because the crap was scared of you.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you have to go back to Land Rover, and they say, oh, we'll do you a great deal on another one. So there you go, 4 sales from 1 customer, which I think is why they're not getting a handle on the cars being stolen, and they're not getting a handle on reliability, because they're making money from every direction by keeping those things going. It's scary.
Yeah, but that's all going to come to an end in 2026, because they're going all, I mean, is it all EV across Jaguar, or is it across Jaguar Land Rover? Do you know?
Well, it's gonna have to be by the 2030 deadline. But this is just Jaguar. So I made a video about this probably a year ago when they announced that they were going to do this. So it's not a surprise. Jaguar did say we're going to cut all of our products, and we are going to be very, very high-end EV only. But again, the timing of everything could not be worse. You've got the Trump election, and that was the timing of that has coincided with people have had enough of this woke rubbish. They really have. We've talked about this. You've done loads of stuff about this. People have had enough. They don't want all of this transgender, cross-gender being pushed in their faces anymore. So Jaguar have jumped on the woke bandwagon at totally the wrong time, and jumped on the EV bandwagon at the wrong time because everybody else is pulling out. So I think that's why we've got Jaguar doubling down on their decision, because I don't think they can afford to do a U-turn at this stage. They can't apologize for the woke advert, and they can't undo the fact that they're going full EV. So all they can do is dig their heels in and say, if you don't like it, you're a bigot.
Yeah, basically, well, exactly right. Yeah, but you understand, like the life cycle in the sort of, to get your new car brand out, and so it is a multi-year cycle. So I reckon they are probably committed, like you said. I reckon they're 100% committed to the 2026 all EV. This strange looking, it looks Tesla-esque to me, but I'm not sure what it'll finally look like. And that's at a time when we're seeing, Geoff, and as you and I have talked about this several times before on this, the whole EV thing, which of course we would suggest may not be totally unrelated to the World Economic Forum's agenda, right? The whole EV thing, but the wheels of, if you pardon the pun, are coming off that, because ordinary, maybe not fleets, but ordinary people, just ordinary private motorists, are not buying into EVs in anything like that which the government requires. So there's going to be a major crash coming soon anyway, and Jaguar are going to be completely on the wrong side of it.
I think a lot of this is already happening as well, and I still don't think people fully understand just how bad that the secondhand EV sales thing is getting. So yeah, just for people that maybe don't know, in the UK, companies are incentivized to put their staff in electric cars. Basically, it makes financial sense for staff to be in electric cars. So fleets are buying EVs because of government subsidies, etc., etc. But 3 years after, when that vehicle comes back on the market, when it needs to find a private buyer, those private buyers aren't there. So we're ending up in a situation now where it's looking like the way the model is going to work, in order for this to keep going, they have to scrap the car at the end of the lease. I think that's where we're going to get to. So we're just going to end up with disposable cars. And when the company is finished with them, it just gets scrapped. Because at the minute, there's major questions about where all these cars are going. So we see from the sales statistics that companies are buying and registering these EVs, but then they're not trickling through to the secondhand market at the same rate. So where are they going? Are they being put away? Are they being hidden? Are they all on an airfield? So the discounts that you can get on EVs are absolutely huge. If you are in a position where you could have an EV, you can get pretty much any price you want. You name your price and you can go and buy one. But
is that all EV brands? Is that all? I mean, would that include Tesla as well as all the others?
Tesla has always stood head and shoulders above everybody else. So I don't know on Tesla numbers, but I would assume that they are not flying off the shelf at the rate that we are being told that they are. I mean, I was just looking at some of the discounts. I don't know if I can pull these up a second. I can show you, because I just downloaded some pictures. There's a chat on Twitter, Barry Crampton, who's absolutely brilliant, and he does a lot with EVs and EV depreciation. So if I can just pull this up, what I'm looking at now is I've got a Hyundai Ioniq, right? It's done 2,600 miles, so it's a used car, and it was listed for sale in April of this year. All right, so it's a 2,500 mile car. It was for sale in April of this year at £58,000. That car is still for sale on Auto Trader here and now in November. So it's been for sale all year, and it hasn't sold, and they've discounted it now by £15,000. It's down to £43,000. So they've that used car, and it's still unsold. I've got another one here, which is and again, like Barry on Twitter is absolutely brilliant. So we've got an Audi Q8 e-tron. It was listed for sale in February at £80,000. Still for sale today at £47,000. So you can see the increments on there as well. He shows all of the increments, so you can see that they reduced it in May, April, June, August. That they keep reducing the price of this car to get it to sell. They're down now 41%, so they're down £32,000, and the car is still sat on the forecourt unsold.
I mean, that's the economic disaster. I mean, for the dealers, because that's. I wonder, is that like an Audi dealer, or is that just a generic dealer that you might?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly who that is, and that's a car with 10,000 miles on. But if we just take this last one, right? So this is a 2024. It's a Citroen DS, full electric, and it was listed in August. This car's got 15 miles on the clock. All right, so it's brand new. It was listed in August at £34,000. Today, that car is on Auto Trader at £18,000, and it's still unsold. You'd never, ever get a discount like that on a new petrol or diesel car. I mean, that's half price. That's a 48% discount on a car that's done 15 miles. You can't tell me that they're selling.
So, because I mean, what that tells me is nobody wants it. I mean, nobody wants it. There's no demand for that. But yet, and this is sort of the thing I want to move on to. You know, we have this clash because we've got this, godforsaken Labour government in power, and we've got Ed Miliband and the rest of them 100% into the we have to move completely away from the petrol, diesel, even hybrid vehicles. I think they're against hybrids as well, and it won't work. I can't see how it works in any regard. Can you?
But I tell you what, isn't that interesting? Because if we move the conversation over to this direction, let's look at what Jaguar have just done, right? So we've got Jaguar, which are established. They launch a rebrand, right? So they change leadership. It is massively, massively unpopular, and the people show how unpopular it is online, and Jaguar double down, right? Now let's take a look at what's going on in government. We get a change of leadership, right? The leadership changed direction. They go back on all the things that they promised us. And we've now got, let's mention it, this petition. There's a petition that has just gone up online. There's now more than 2 million people have signed a petition for a new election. And Keir Starmer done today, he's basically... So they've both done the same thing. It's the same play, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it absolutely is. Yeah, it's really curious what we're living through. But like again, if you're operating a big car dealership, you've got to be able to plan your business, 4 or 5 years ahead. I don't see how they can do that, Geoff, with any degree of certainty, because the cars that people want to buy, they're basically being told by government, don't you dare sell them. And the cars that they don't want, government saying, you better sell them. So how does that circle square itself, do you think?
Well, it's really difficult because if there's an EV mandate on brand new cars, so there's a quota of electric cars that the dealerships have to sell brand new. But if there's then no demand when those cars come into the second-hand market, you've got a major disconnect between the dealers that are selling brand new cars and the second-hand dealers. Because in order for the car market to work, those cars that are bought on lease need to then
and
then they need to be bought by a dealer who pays the price because he knows he's got a customer for it. But if we suddenly start building cars that the second-hand dealers don't want, and we're seeing this now. EVs are going through auction, and I'm hearing this from various auction houses, and I think we discussed this before actually. The EV will go through an auction 1 week, and then the next week, and then the next week with no bidders, unless there's a dealer that's brave enough to go, do you know what, that EV is now down to 200 quid. I might have a punt at that. But from a second-hand dealer point of view as well, and again, this is the weird position that we're in with cars, because it's not just about EVs, it's all new cars. So let's say you're a car dealer and you buy your stock from your local auction. You've got to put a warranty on that car. Now, that's fine if it's an old Volvo or whatever. Oh, worst thing that's going to happen, head gasket's going to go. We need to send it to Dave down the road. He'll do the head gasket, skim the head, car goes back on the road. But with some of this modern stuff, it can't be fixed at any price. Or it's multiple tens of thousands of pounds to fix it. So the dealers at the car auction just go, nah, that's not worth the risk. It's just not worth the risk.
Fascinating. Yeah. And I mean, the thing with this high mileage electric car usage is working out twice as expensive. Well, of course, yeah, but I would expect that. Would you not expect that to be the case?
Well, it shouldn't be, should it? I mean,
Oh, no, it should be. It definitely should be. If it depends, well, what is your intention, Geoff? What is your intention?
But the funny thing is, right, if you were to do like a Vox Pop style interview, just a man in the street, go down your local high street. I mean, I know it's only charity shops and barbers anyway, but go down your local high street and just say to people, what do you think is cheaper to run? Take my John O'Groats to Land's End trip. You go to people and say, what do you think is cheaper to get from John O'Groats to Land's End, an old diesel or a brand new electric car? And most of the general public would say, it's got to be the electric car because of all the advertising and everything that they see. But the fact of the matter is, when we did that, it cost twice as much for the electric car to do it. And this is what people are now finding. So, yes, you can run an EV for cheap if you can charge at home and you never have to go and use public chargers. But that isn't the reality for most people, because that's like saying you can run your petrol car for cheaper if you never, ever, ever fill up on a motorway service station. How many times have you had to get petrol on a motorway in your life? It's going to be a few, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Plenty of times, yeah. But this is where you see, but I in my world, I was sort of thinking, well, I've driven hybrids, and I quite liked hybrids. I thought I'm sort of getting the best of both worlds with a hybrid, sort of. But then that's not good enough, is it? I mean, hybrids are going to have to go as well, because ultimately that combustion engine, that ICE engine's going to be designated to the scrap heap. So I don't know what sort of future we're going to look forward to, Geoff. As people who love cars, I mean, I love tech in cars. I love all that stuff, and I do like some of the new tech in cars. But the fundamentals are just going out the window. And maybe it is all down to 2030. Maybe it is part of, by that point, they'll have pissed off so many people that will say don't want to drive anymore. Who needs it? Who wants to drive these extremely expensive electric vehicles? In fact, most ordinary working people couldn't even afford some of them, I suspect.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, even your cheapest EV, I think, is £1,000 more expensive than the equivalent petrol brand new. And what's really interesting as well is you go from this being a conversation about just a normal, logical conversation between two intelligent human beings, where we sit down and we go, how is this going to work? And you end up with, oh, there must be a global conspiracy to get us out of our cars, because it's almost the only place that you can get to that makes sense. So you can start having a conversation with someone who's totally normal, and if you follow the logical steps through as to what happens next and how it impacts businesses and how it impacts cars and how finance works, by the end of the conversation, you should have a fully fledged conspiracy theorist being born.
I see, if I'm laughing at a comment here, I see someone said the Mac Master has aged 20 years since buying his tin can.
I speak to Lee pretty regularly about his Taycan, and you know, we both run YouTube channels, so it's funny. You know, we are not the news. We are here to entertain people, and Lee does like to entertain people with his electric car stories. But the fact of the matter is, that car was £130,000.
Yeah.
And if I value it on We Buy Any Car now, the last time I did is £29,000. So you know, people can moan about Lee's videos and the way he presents and everything, but at the end of the day, that car has lost £100,000, regardless of who's selling it.
And Lee's car, is that 2-year-old or 3-year-old now? That
it's a 2021, so it's coming up to 3 years. So he's coming up to the end of his finance term on it. So Lee's now in a real tricky position where he's thinking, well, what do I get next? Because the way the finance works on cars like that is they have kind of got you by the balls. So as much as he'd like to go and get a petrol 911, I don't think Porsche would take the Taycan in part exchange against it.
No, I don't think
he's
so.
Stuck.
Yeah, but it is brutal now. Like 130 grand, and I used to drive a Porsche, as you know, and like those cars are not cheap. And then at the end of 3 years to have the equity just essentially go all the way out of it, you know. It's a horror show. That I feel bad for Lee, but she's not the only one. Loads of people have. You must have come across this, Geoff, talking to people, have similar, if not quite that degree of horror, but still bad stories. You don't see too many people, or at least I don't meet people who are going, oh, the best thing I ever did was get an EV, especially if they're private buyers, to get an EV. Yeah. If they're company, it's different.
Let me tell you where we're going to have some problems next with what is coming around. So we know that the company car drivers are being pushed into EVs, but that's less of a problem for them because they haven't paid for it. It's a company car, so the company's paid for it.
Yeah.
Where we've got a problem coming up is the Motability scheme in the UK. So the Motability scheme is where people have a car if they are disabled, or if they are a carer, or if they have someone that depends on them, and the government contributes towards, you know, their ability to get around. But Motability are pushing electric cars like you wouldn't believe. And I've recently been made aware that there's a Facebook group now, which is called something like Motability Problem Support Group. And the amount of people, particularly now we're getting into winter, that are posting saying they were fobbed off with this electric car. They can't have their heaters on. They can only do 100 miles. I think we're going to start seeing more and more of these stories coming out as well.
Well, that's really interesting, because you see the thing about the cold weather and the electric car batteries. I mean, that's a genuine feature, because the manufacturers even admitted that the mileage will change depending on weather conditions, and if you move into cold weather conditions. And my wife, she drives a Lexus hybrid. Lexus, I think it's LV, I think it is a hybrid, which is not a bad car for what she needs it for. But even she's noticed in the most recent spell of colder weather that we've had, and she tracks her mileage as some women track some of these things, a bit like grocery prices. And she was complaining to me about the fact that she drives exactly the same. Her driving methods don't change. You know, she's very consistent. But she's noticed when it got cold, her mileage. Does that surprise you, or is that what you would expect, Geoff?
That's exactly the way battery technology works, doesn't it? You know, if I leave my laptop in the car overnight and I get my laptop out in the morning, it takes ages for the battery to warm up and for it to switch on. So why would your car be any different? I just think like the whole I was missold an EV, those sort of cases are coming next. But like you said, I don't have an issue with the hybrids. The hybrids are fine because you can rely on the petrol if needs be. But I mean, I put a video about this morning. So in the last week in Worcestershire, where I am, we've had heavy snow, and then this week we've had heavy rain, and now we've got flooding. So yesterday evening, I popped out and I just thought, it's going to flood tonight. I know what the roads are going to be like in the morning. So I'll nip out to my local petrol station and I'll just put half a tank in. So whatever happens tomorrow, I know the car's ready and we can jump in it and go. Yeah. And I made a post about that because, you know, so I did it. I put, I think, 30, 40 quid's worth of fuel. And I've got an old, very thirsty Volvo at the moment. And then on my trip computer, it said, you've got 190 miles range with my petrol. And I was looking and I was thinking, that's enough to get me like, if something happened overnight, if there was some form of emergency, whatever that might be, you know, got to take a child to hospital, or you know, for some reason you need to run to the border in the middle of the night, I can get to Dover on that fuel without worrying about it. And that's the thing with an EV, you're always reliant on all of the systems around you always working. But if you've got a little bit of petrol or diesel stored safely at home, and this sort of Mad Max scenario does come around, you're a bit more insulated because you're not reliant on the electric charging network. And it just occurred to me, yes, you know, I never set out to make a video saying, oh, I'd rather have a petrol car in a Mad Max scenario. It was just the fact that I went, it's going to flood overnight, I should put half a tank of fuel in. And it was that easy. And it took me, 4 minutes. I don't want to trade that for the fact that, I can warm my EV up in the morning. I'd rather know that I can get to where I need to go.
And that's the other stuff about it as well. If you've got an EV and you're wanting to put your heated seats on, you want to play, your music, you want all the that also then impacts, especially in these winter months, heated steering wheels and all that stuff. So the only thing is, Geoff, I would say I was checking out the acceleration on a Tesla, and I mean it does 0 to 60 in 1.9 seconds or something. That impresses me, I've got to say. That was good.
Yeah, I've driven the Model S Plaid, and it's the only car I've ever accelerated in where I genuinely felt like I was going to fall off my chair. But really? I'm not sure that's a good thing. What the roads are like, at the moment. Like, around here, it's pothole central. In the last month, I have buckled 2 alloy wheels, and my wife has done 1. So we've gone through 3 tyres in the last month, and now we've got floods. And between you and me, I won't admit this on the internet, but we actually killed my wife's BMW this morning in a flood. So we got that to deal with as well. But I just think we don't live in a world where I need it. And again, with electric cars, all they've got to offer is more power. I'm told that the next Polestar that comes out, I can't remember the number. It's either 4,000 or 6,000 pounds of torque, right? 4,000 or 6,000 pounds foot of torque for acceleration. He needs that.
It's a bit like it's a bit like I was talking to I was getting a super fast broadband put into a different property I have the other day, and I would say we're having the cynic here saying, but 1.9 second, not 60. Why and how often? It's like, why do you want to go to the top of Everest? Because it's there. That's why. And I do, but I probably never could do it. But I like the idea of it. I do quite like the idea of it. But it's strange. I mean, of all the EVs, the only one I would ever flirt with would be Tesla. And even then, the network's not there. It's not. We've only got 6 superchargers in Northern Ireland. 6, no good. And then there's questions. I've got other questions as well, So so I don't know. I just think that the next couple of years, Geoff, are going to be really tough for the industry, for the motor car industry, because the government's slapping these fines on them. If they don't hit, Top Cat says Tesla looks awful. They don't look sexy enough for me, but. It's the S one. Is it the best looking one of them, Geoff? I think. Is it the S?
I I don't think any of them are. I don't think any of them
Not
are very
great.
good
No,
looking.
and on the outside, and the inside, if you go for super modern, they look okay.
They do.
But
I've done a review of a Tesla on my channel, and I did like it. But again, like coming back to the Jaguar thing, this is where you've got the problem. So you've got to have a customer that can charge at home, doesn't mind the public charging network, and likes the fact that they've got an electric car, right? But if your customer isn't ticking those three boxes, they ain't going to buy your car. So Jaguar have just wiped out a massive portion of their potential customers, just because there are people that just go, nah, it's not for me. How are you going to sell a product to someone that goes, nah, it's not for me, when you don't have an offering that? Yeah, I can't see it ending well for Jaguar at all.
I'll tell you what, I would hate to be a salesman working, or a sales manager working in a Jag dealership. Oh, actually, or in quite a few car dealerships, because the other thing is, this is what I just wanted to say to you, that as these government imposed quotas, kick in over the next 4 years or whatever, like, how can dealers hit them, Geoff? And if they don't hit them, how do they cope with the fines that they're going to have to pay? How will that work?
The way that they're going to have to do it is by clever management of stock and manipulate. That's the only way. They do not have the demand in the marketplace to be able to do it without underhand tactics. So what that means is, if you walk into a dealership on the first day of your car, you'll probably be able to get a petrol car. But if you walk into the dealership on the last day of the month, you ain't going to be able to get a petrol, because they'll be desperately trying to shift their quota of EVs. So from about the 16th, 17th, 18th of the month, right? Every time you phone up and say, can I test drive a petrol or a diesel, please? That's interest you in the electric. So they're only going to sell petrol and diesel for about the first 5-6 days of the month. And then once their allocation is sold out, they'll have to force EV only. So it's manipulation. That's what they're going to have to do.
And will that mean that the value in the petrol diesel cars increases in the years ahead, because there's going to be fewer of them?
I think they will. I think there's a sweet spot in cars generally, because I do think as well, people are starting to realize that cars with all this tech on it aren't great. So now you've got all this EU mandated stuff. So ignoring the electric car thing. Cars have got to have, your lane assist, and now they want to do speed control and all this stuff. And on the high end car market, so I do a lot of stuff with my friend Richard from a channel called Challenge the Road, and he knows supercars. And there's him and there's Harry Metcalf, who car collectors. And they're starting to say, I don't think people are going to be buying these new super and hypercars because people don't want the technology. And then with the hybrid stuff as well, you've no idea how much it's going to cost to repair it. So instead of buying the latest hypercar from whatever company it is, people are starting to look at the car auctions and go, well, hang on a minute, that special car from 10 years ago is £1 million. They want 4 million quid for the brand new one. I'm going to go buy that one. It's really interesting to see this happen in the car market.
You mentioned about the EU imposed stuff, and my wife's car, she's got her Lexus. There's this like bar thing that sits on top of the wheel, which is basically watching her, and it's a safety measure. So if you close your eyes or whatever, if you were getting dozy, it would alert you to that, as well as keeping you in lane and stuff. I despise that. I mean, but that's all part of the intrusive. And the car salesman guy that we spoke to said that the plan was from the EU to then have mandatory speed restrictor. Have they come in yet, Geoff, or is that something that's coming in?
I think it's on. I think that's on the way. I did make a video about that, but yeah, you're right. So the lane assist as well. And again, I can recommend watching Harry Metcalf's video about car values, because he basically said lane assist is all well and good when you're on like a big American freeway where it's nice and wide and you've got space. But Harry basically said, it doesn't work in this country. It doesn't work down country lanes. The car is constantly tugging at you. So again, it depends, because each manufacturer has got a different series of buttons that you have to press to switch this stuff off. And for most of them, you have to switch it off every single time you get in the car. It's just infuriating. And I think people will live with this stuff, and then they'll go, oh no, you know what? I'm going to go buy the one from 3 years ago that didn't have any of that on it.
Yeah, because this Lexus I'm talking about, it keeps beeping. It beeps at you if you're not doing this, that, and the other. So the only thing to do is turn it off when you're but that means you have to go through a process. You hit a couple of buttons and then it's off. But it's very, very annoying. And it used to be that the latest tech was the best tech. And now we're living in a world where the latest tech is the most annoying tech. I mean, that's kind of ironic, isn't it? That, and this is why I know you talk about it a lot. You can go back into cars over many years and it's better. It's weird.
Yeah, that's right. And I think, you can almost pinpoint in history where cars reached a point where we should have said, you know what, this is as good as we're going to make it. When you've got, and it's probably the best car in the world is probably something really boring, like a 2005 Mondeo 2-liter diesel, right? Let's take heated seats. You'll have a CD player with a really good stereo that works, power steering, plenty of power, good fuel economy. And that's it. But now with all the stuff that we're piling on, and I think this is the problem, we've reached peak car and everybody has realized that we've reached peak cars, but now they've got to find new ways to sell you things. They can't sell you the car based on the capabilities of the car itself anymore, because all cars now do the same. So they've got to sell you the car based on the software on the inside, how many screens it's got, and marketing. And that's it, because they're all the same. It's like mobile phones. Remember the old days, you go in a mobile phone shop and there'd be a flip phone, there'd be a bar phone, there might be a slide phone. Some of them rotated. It was really interesting, and mobile phones were fun. And now you go to a mobile phone shop and they're all just black squares that look exactly the same. That's where we've got to.
Yeah, but the other thing is mobile phones now from year to year, there's no real substantive differences anymore. So the reason to even want to change them, I don't know why, maybe young people do, but at my age, I think, what's the point? What is the difference between Apple 16 and Apple 15 or 14? Yeah, it's not that obvious to me that I would want to spend the money doing that. But it's a bit like, I was going to say to you, I was speaking to a guy who was putting this fast broadband in, and it gives me better than Starlink. It gives me one gigabyte is the download is 1 gigabyte on it, which is pretty fast. And he was telling me that it's BT. He was saying that they're now building a 2.4 network to get to so. And he was saying, but he didn't understand. This is conspiracy theory central now. He couldn't understand why anyone would need that amount of download. 2.4 gigas. It's like uber industrial, Geoff. Why would households be wanting 2.4 giga? And yet that's exactly apparently the standard that BT are testing in the background. So whilst I think it's great because I've got 1 giga, actually it's going to be 2.4. But why? Why, Geoff?
I think again, that's another one of those where you've got to start over here with this question where you go, hang on a minute, why would anybody need that? And then you track a few steps forward and you do a bit of research. And again, before you know it, you're a full-on revolutionary conspiracy theorist, and everything you've ever been taught in life is a complete lie. But you're never too many steps away from that. But get on to just on your point there. You said about mobile phones, right? You said that there isn't a reason for you to go and change your mobile phone. So we don't bother. I mean, I don't even know how old my phone is, and I'm a YouTuber. I should have the latest technology, and I use an old iPhone 13 mini because I like it. But the thing is with cars, I think cars are too connected to the economy. So if car sales slow down, the impact on the economy is too much, which is why they can't incentivize you to go and get into a new car, but they can disincentivize you to get out of your old car. That's what we're seeing. So the road tax rates on your old car is going higher. The pollution rate on your old car was terrible. You've got to go and buy a new one. So we're not buying new cars on their merits, but it's because we've been pushed out of our old cars.
Yeah. Well, is this? I read something the other day that Rachel Reeves, our beloved Chancellor, she's about to announce a big hike. Is that in car tax then or whatever? There's something she's supposed to be announcing that's coming in 2025, which piles the cost on, if you like, the traditional motorist in terms of his running costs. So yeah, they're getting us that way. So they bully us out of our petrol diesel cars into electric cars that we don't want. I thought it was very strange that Rachel from accounts. Yeah, sorry, Rachel from accounts. That's the great. Once you've got that meme's going to stick with her forever. By the way, she'll always be Rachel from accounts with me. But I think at the moment is in the government's target for 2024 for EVs, car manufacturers, is it 23 or 24%? Is it something like that?
Yeah, it's around about there. But then again,
Geoff, and they all hit it. And I'm thinking, do they? Exactly. Yeah.
But then again, like they play the system, so they go, oh well, the target was 10 electric car registrations for June, so we registered 10 cars in June, and then in July you've got a discount on pre-registered cars because they registered them but they didn't sell them. It's like the oldest trick in the book in motoring. It's hilarious. But I getting back to Rachel from accounts, nothing would surprise me now. So in January, she said, right, we're launching a new initiative to save money. On the first week of every month, we're going to come around your house and take one of your shoes. Like, I wouldn't be surprised. And again, like you look at the people that are in power at the moment, you look at what they're saying, you look at how they're acting against the will of the people, you look at how there is no politician that has done anything positive for mankind for many, many years now. And again, you start looking and you go, why are they making that decision? And before you know it, you're a raving conspiracy theorist because you've done a bit of research.
Yeah. As you said, we're always we're never more than about 2 or 3 steps away from conspiracy theories. And this is the petition thing that's taken off. Look at that now, almost 2.5 million signature. Yeah, look at that. I mean, the thing is that, I don't believe for one minute that this will, I don't think anyone should think that this will trigger a general election. But what it triggers is there's millions of people really annoyed and really angry at Labour. That's the point, surely, Geoff.
I fully agree. I don't think it will do anything, but it shows the depth of feeling in the nation. Yeah. And it is another one of those things that also exposes the mainstream media. Because if you've got 2.5 million people signing that in 24 hours, and it wasn't on any of the main news channels this morning.
No, they don't talk about that. No. Yeah, this is a map showing. I think we just take it off there. I think this map showed by sort of UK region the depth of. I can see there in the northeast of England. There, I can see in the northwest. A lot of people not very happy. It's that what depresses the hell out of me is if you look at that map and you go over to where I am. I'm in the little red bit. I'm the red of Northern Ireland. The rest of it's bloody light orange. So that's a disgrace. Yeah, shame. Well, there's another bit there. Yeah, there's a couple of bits that are reasonably dissident. But it was interesting to see that depth of feeling. And I think, Geoff, that's because whilst we're talking about cars, there's elderly people at the moment who can't, maybe struggle with their electric bills. And you're going to see inflation take off because that's what happens when you do what Rachel from accounts is doing. So, we live in challenging times, and I'm not in the least surprised that millions of people, and then the sneering people on the internet going, oh, well, look, don't you understand how democracy works? We're being lectured because because of this petition. This is the biggest petition, Geoff, that I know of in the history of petition.parliament. So it does speak to something for sure.
It's huge, and I don't think it can be ignored. It will be, obviously, but like I said, I think you can look at this in 2 ways. I think you can lose hope, and you can say, oh well, Starmer is a WEF stooge, and he's going to dig his heels in and do what he wants. But the other side of that is like this is quite. It could be a time of hope. People are waking up to the fact that the media is lying to them on a daily basis, and waking up to the fact that things have not been as they've been told to us for the last, forever, but particularly for the last 4 or 5 years. The last 4 or 5 years have woken up a lot of people that probably never would have considered, saying anything bad about the government or what's going on in the world. But with what they've seen in the last 5 years, and now with every new thing that the government does, they're winding people up. So that on one hand, they're saying, right, no winter fuel payments for people. And on the next hand, they're going, oh, yeah, we'll pay for all the missiles for Ukraine to bomb Russia. And normal, peaceful people are going, this doesn't make sense.
Well, the best one, Geoff, was this whole thing about the farmers and the inheritance tax, which, based on the calculations from the Treasury, will raise at most 500 million. Meanwhile, the same government's given 530 million, I think it's million or maybe it's billion, to overseas farmers. I mean, what? So you're giving our taxes to overseas agricultural projects in greater monies than you'd ever bring in from our own farmers, and in the process destroy farming. I mean, it's again, I somehow discern there's a common theme to all these things, Geoff. If only we could put our finger on what it is, but we're on YouTube, so we better not. So
sharpen your pitchfork, David. Sharpen your pitchfork.
Oh, yes. Well, I think, I'm looking forward to Donald Trump getting in. For all the criticism of Trump, he's going to impact on the car markets. I'm sure he is, Geoff, because and he's going to impact on our economies. I think people like Rachel from Accounts is in for one hell of a big shock if they think that. Trump understands. At least he's a businessman. That's one thing about him. He understands business. Like
you've got a lot of people that were. Because I'm pretty in favor of Donald Trump. But do you know what? Anyone that can sit down and do a sensible podcast with Joe Rogan for 3 hours and not fluff the words and not make a fool of themselves and not have a speech or an agenda written for them, there's something to be said for the integrity of being able to do that. And I don't think any of our politicians would be able to sit through a 3-hour podcast and not completely dig themselves into a hole. So, that there is. I think there is a little bit of hope on what's going on in the USA. Like we say, we are seeing a kickback against the woke agenda. We're starting to see people questioning where the government is spending money. And I think it's an interesting. I don't know if it's the best time ever to be alive, but it's certainly an interesting time. That's for sure. It changes week by week, doesn't it?
Well, it does, and I agree. I think the reason that Trump was able to do that with Rogan, the 3 hours, is because, like him or loathe him, he is what he is. He doesn't really put on an act. And it's a bit like, Geoff, when we're doing this, we've talked for over an hour now, and we could go for another hour. All that we're doing is just being ourselves. Do you know what I mean? Like, if we met in a pub tomorrow, it would be the same.
Yeah.
Too many politicians put on acts. We've got actors, not authentic people, and they're scared of long-form discussions because your true character comes out, which Rogan's that's why Kamala didn't want to do it, obviously.
Yeah. Well, she said she'd do 40 minutes and it wouldn't be in his studio. But I think, but again, this gives us an advantage as well, because people who watch my YouTube channel know that I am what I am, and I don't pretend to be anything, and I'm not playing an act. Now we're starting to do something about that. So I'm working with a number of other people, and if I can just plug something.
Yep, go ahead.
I'm working with a few other trusted people in the automotive industry to launch Motorists Action Network. It's motoristsactionnetwork.com. At the minute, it's just something that you can basically register your interest in. But yeah, that's it. There's a video that I did there with Adrian, he's a very high-ranking ex-police deputy chief. I don't fully understand the title, but Adrian's one of the people I'm working on this with. I'm working on it with Richard from Challenger Road. I'm meeting tomorrow with the motorbike people, motorcycle action group. We've got the ULEZ people on board. We're working on the farmers. I want the driving instructors. I want to build what is essentially going to be a lobby group that will pull together all of the pro-motoring, pro-freedom organizations to bring it under one umbrella of one powerful organization that has a voice and empowers motorists. So I would implore people to go and sign up at motoristsactionnetwork.com, and I'll build the website next week.
Okay. Well, listen, everyone. If you're not following Geoff, and hopefully you are, but if you're not, you should be. And obviously, you can get him here on the likes of X. You can get him at Geoff Buys Cars. You can get him over on his YouTube. You're pretty ubiquitous, Geoff. You're like myself. You're everywhere. And look, I really appreciate all the work that you've done and the programs you put out. It's very refreshing, and that's what the last 4 years have done. It's been bad in some ways, but good in so many other ways. And there's all great link-ups have been made, and I love what you're trying to do. And I, in my own way, that's what I'm trying to do with these live shows I put on, bringing together people, human beings together. it's a really good feeling. I love doing it. I'm looking forward to that as well. So, Geoff, listen, I'll thank you for tonight. Your Starlink held up reasonably well. I think Elon Musk gets maybe 8 out of 10 on this one, but we have to be nice to him because he does some other good service for us, So no, that held up well. Thanks, Geoff, for being here. Great to see you again. I probably won't see you this side of Christmas, so can I wish you a very early happy Christmas from me and my channel, and thanks again for being with us tonight. That's it from Geoff and myself for tonight, folks. Make sure you follow Geoff. Do support him because we all need support, and I shall return later on in the week, folks. That's it from us for tonight. Good night.